True success is often misconstrued. It's praised in ephemeral moments, quantified in money, ranked by titles, caught in highlight reels, and sold through simplistic slogans. But true success, the type that sustains, the kind that feels right when you're alone, the kind you can live with after the noise fades, is not a product of luck, charm, or shortcuts. It's not achieved overnight, and it's not characterized by outward successes alone. True success is constructed from within, quietly, intentionally, and it's almost always slower, harder, and more intricate than anyone admits. Most people chase achievement by emulating behavior. They look at people they admire and emulate what they see: the routine, the tone, the trends. But they miss the fundamentals. Because what you see on the surface isn't what caused the outcome. What you see is the outcome of deeper principles, concepts that shape how those people think, choose, decide, and show up. These concepts guide them while no one's watching. They direct their behavior under pressure. They define who they are long after the applause ends. And if you don't grasp those principles, if you don't absorb them and make them your own, you might develop something, but it won't last. You might attract attention, but you won't feel fulfilled. You might win, but the victory will feel empty. Because true success isn't just about winning. It's about staying united while you win. It's about being proud of who you're becoming while you build. It's about working through the process with character, with resilience, with a standard that stays fast even when things break apart. The world urges you to focus on results, and certainly results matter. But the danger is in being so concerned with outcomes that you neglect the structure underneath them. The architecture, the unseen structure that decides how high you can build, how skillfully you can lead, and how far you can go without breaking. Everyone wants to build huge. But not everyone builds deep. And without depth, the weight of achievement would collapse you. That's why you need more than strategies, more than a productivity trick, more than a trendy morning routine. You need guiding principles, anchors, core truths that make you resilient, make you intelligent, make you someone who can carry the responsibilities success demands. Because success is a weight. And if you're not ready to carry it, it will smash you. This isn't about hype. It's not about being loud. It's not about doing what's popular. It's about clarity, about maturity, about aligning your goal with something that genuinely lasts. The cost of developing the wrong notion of success isn't just exhaustion, it's regret. And the longer you chase what seems enticing instead of what's true, the harder it becomes to find your way back. So, this is your moment of reset, your recalibration. It's not a screenplay to follow, but a lens through which to observe the world. 6 notions that don't just help you succeed, they help you succeed the correct way. 6 internal principles that impact how you work, how you show up, how you treat others, and how you lead. You won't apply all of them at once. They'll unfold within you, layer by layer, season by season. They aren't rules, they are reflections, instruments for progress, for alignment, for knowledge. Once you start looking through them, everything begins to shift. You stop mimicking others' lives, stop comparing your journey to someone else's schedule, and stop requiring continual affirmation, applause, or permission to be great. Because you've grounded yourself in something solid, something unshakable, something you can rely on long after the first excitement fades. The first crucial element to reaching actual success is to quit outsourcing your self-worth. As long as your value is dictated by external factors, your identity will always be fragile. And when your identity is insecure, your actions become reactive. You'll pursue things you don't need, tolerate things you shouldn't, and make decisions from fear, not wisdom. You'll continually perform, striving to gain love, respect, and belonging. But true success cannot survive when your worth is based on the views of others. Most people haven't been trained how to discern value from validation. They confuse applause with alignment, being acknowledged with being required. From a young age, they learn that high performance gives rewards, the proper words provide affirmation, and showing up in a certain way brings approval. Without recognizing it, they link their identity to outcomes. If I win, I'm worthy. If I lose, I'm not. If they approve, I'm enough. If they don't, I must alter. This becomes a circle, a trap, a never-ending hunt for validation. And this trap doesn't disappear with success, it merely becomes more expensive. The applause grows louder, the pressure gets higher, and before you know it, you're not leading from a position of strength. You're merely surviving the strain to be liked. But true success, sustainable success, comes from a different base. It begins with knowing your value before the scoreboard admits it, before the paycheck affirms it, before the praise fills the room. It starts with recognizing the truth that you don't need to earn your right to grow, to try, to lead, or to build. You don't require permission to believe in your purpose, nor do you need approval from others to keep moving forward. This kind of thinking is rare because it's silent. It doesn't perform, it doesn't need to convince, and it doesn't feel the need to exhibit every success merely to feel appreciated. It functions in peace, builds with clarity, and leads with humility. It doesn't readily lose its balance because its basis isn't built on feedback, it's built on truth. You are not defined by your metrics, your blunders, your likes, your views, your salary, your resume, or your reputation. These items may reflect your successes, but they don't decide your worth. If you don't identify this early on, you'll spend your life in reactive mode, responding to praise, reacting to criticism, following trends, and always attempting to catch up with some new version of success that's just out of reach. Instead, you learn to move from a point of identity, not ego, not arrogance, but rootedness. A quiet internal security that says, I know what I bring to the table, and I don't need to prove it every moment. This perspective makes you solid, consistent, and more powerful than someone continually searching for the next win. It frees you to grow, since now you can hear comments without breaking apart. You can fail without losing your sense of self. You can modify your route without believing you've lost your worth. You're no longer performing for validation. You're leading from alignment. That transformation provides energy, clarity, and trust. People sense it. You become someone others want to follow. Not because you're the loudest, but because you're the most grounded. Not because you always win, but because you don't crumble when you lose. Not because you're perfect, but because you're anchored. You have nothing to prove, only something to give. This doesn't mean you stop striving, it means you strive from a better position. You still work hard, still improve, still seek greater goals. But you do it because it honors who you are, not to prove that you're enough. That shift, that clarity, that inner rootedness is what allows room for actual success. The type that doesn't just amaze people but changes lives. The second crucial aspect for obtaining actual success is developing internal alignment. When what you say, believe, do, and feel are all tugging in various directions, life becomes chaotic. It may not always appear that way on the outside. Your habits might be regimented, and your calendar packed. But inside, something feels amiss. No amount of achievement can make up for that type of inner stress. Alignment isn't about perfection. It's not about getting everything right all the time. It's about consistency and harmony. A steady sense that you're headed in the right way, that your job represents your beliefs, that your goals reflect your identity, and that your ambition is anchored in your reality. Most people lack that. They have ambition, but it doesn't come from within. It's acquired, adopted, inherited, or replicated from people they respect but never thoroughly questioned. They chase achievements that appear good on paper. Degrees, milestones, measures. They establish careers that seem impressive but don't deliver fulfillment. They rule with authority but lack inner tranquility. Over time, this takes a toll because they're not genuinely living. They're performing. They're not making decisions, they're conforming. They're striving to achieve standards that were never truly theirs, and that's where burnout lurks. It's not just about doing too much, but doing the wrong things. It's not simply working hard, it's working without alignment. It's the tiredness that comes from pretending, ignoring signals and silencing your instincts only to keep going forward. It's pressing ahead without contemplating whether forward is really the proper path. But when you choose alignment, everything changes. You slow down just enough to ask the correct questions. What's next? But what's true? Not what looks good, but what seems right. Not what will make people notice, but what will make me proud when no one's watching. These questions shift everything. You begin saying no to things that once tempted you. You quit seeking acceptance from those who don't share your ideals. You stop doing work just because you can and start doing work that draws something deeper out of you. Something more authentic, more honest. This doesn't necessarily necessitate extreme change. You don't need to entirely destroy your life to establish alignment. Sometimes it just involves making tiny adjustments, refocusing, recognizing what motivates you, linking your energy to your identity, realigning your goal with your ideals, and listening to the quiet voice you've been too busy to hear. When you do that, you begin to feel lighter. Not because life becomes easier, but because your options become clearer. There's less friction, less inner turmoil, and no need to pretend. You don't have to pump yourself up every day, because your direction corresponds with your belief. You won't feel like you're fighting yourself simply to make progress. Alignment brings clarity, and clarity is power. It allows you to move faster with less worry, say no with less guilt, and lead with less words. Because your presence already represents integrity. When your life is aligned, when your head, heart, habits, and behaviors are all moving in the same direction, people trust you. You're not scattered. You're not selling something you don't believe in. You're living it. That's what produces influence, not volume, not charisma, but alignment. It's the idea that who you are complements what you do. Your words represent your convictions, your pace shows your priorities, and your decisions reflect your truth. When others sense it, they're drawn to you, not just for what you produce, but for who you are. Next, the third essential component for actual success is creating consistency that outlasts incentive. Motivation is fleeting, it's a mood, and moods are unpredictable. They rise and fall with factors like sleep, the weather, a stranger's comment, or one unpleasant email. But consistency, real consistency, is a choice, a discipline, a habit that stays even when your emotions don't. People wait for motivation to start. They wait until they feel ready, energetic, or inspired. On certain days, they wake up revved up, act swiftly, and feel proud. But that doesn't last, happens. Momentum dissipates. They fall off. And because they relied on motivation to begin, they now need drive to restart. That's where most people stumble. Not in their ability to execute, but in their failure to return. True success isn't built on bursts of intensity, it's built on rhythm and repetition. The commitment to do the work, even when it's inconvenient, uninteresting, or no one is watching. Especially when no one's watching. Because those are the times that train your mind and body to show up on command. Not just when you feel inspired. You must select who you want to become and then align your behaviors with that decision long enough that it becomes your identity. Not a habit, but your identity. It's not something you attempt to do, it's something you simply are. And that type of consistency doesn't come from hype. It comes from clarity, atmosphere, and systems. It comes from the simple decisions you cease negotiating with. You develop consistency through those choices. Just like you train a muscle by continuously working on it, you don't allow yourself to miss twice in a row. One bad day doesn't define your week, and you don't spiral when things feel weird. You uphold your standard not in pursuit of perfection, but because you are devoted. And dedication will always outperform inspiration. This type of constancy develops your thinking. You cease wasting energy on deciding whether or not to take action. The decision has already been made. You don't wake up and discuss it. You don't rely on willpower. You merely follow through, quietly, relentlessly. And that follow through develops trust. You begin to trust yourself, and others will trust you too. Not because you're loud about it, but because you're dependable. You show up. Your outcomes are a natural outcome of your integrity, and integrity isn't something you boast about, it's something you live. Consistency displays your genuine potential. You stop chasing goals that don't correspond with your lifestyle and establish a system that supports your energy. You stop working in bursts that leave you burned out and start establishing mechanisms that sustain you. You learn to win the day, not the year. One step, one work, one block at a time. And when you stumble, which will happen, you don't emphasize it. You don't quit. You reset. You recommit. You get back into rhythm instead of wandering away from the process. That rehabilitation process is what separates individuals who grow from those who continue to start over. True success isn't anchored in motivation, it's built on rhythm, on quiet, regular work that multiplies. It's founded on little commitments that yield large results. And when your life is founded in stability rather than hype, no one can take it from you because it wasn't produced by transitory emotions. It was established through muscle memory. And that memory is what makes you tough, reliable, and prepared for the weight of success. The fourth essential concept for obtaining great success is respecting your seasons. Life doesn't always follow a straight path. It's not a steady, forward move. Sometimes you're building, sometimes you're planting, sometimes you're pruning, and sometimes you're healing. If you expect every season to appear the same, you'll misread your improvement. You may think you're behind when you're merely in a phase of preparation. You could feel trapped while you're truly being formed. Many people forget to give themselves permission to go through seasons. They anticipate their energy, creativity, output, clarity, and momentum to be at high performance all year. And when they encounter a slump, they panic. They press harder. They critique themselves. They question everything, not because something is wrong, but because they've mistaken rest with retreat. However, those who establish great, sustained success know how to distinguish the season they're in. They learn to work with it instead than against it. They don't worry when things are quiet, and they don't slack down when it's time to race. They don't plant seeds and expect a harvest the next morning. They understand how to stay present with the process. You won't always feel on fire. You won't always be launching something fresh. You won't constantly be growing at lightning pace. But every season serves you if you pay attention. There's value in the slow days. There's clarity in the silence. There's restoration in the rest. There's wisdom in the waiting. Stop judging yourself by someone else's season. Stop comparing your process to their results. Don't judge your winter by their spring. If you do, you'll rush what takes time. You'll skip what's sacred. You'll attempt to bloom before your roots are strong enough to hold the weight of success. So, you tune in. You stop questioning, am I behind? And start asking, am I aligned? You stop asking, why is this taking so long? And start asking, what is this teaching me? You stop fighting the rhythm and start listening to what this moment requires of you. Maybe you're in a season of building when the foundation is forming, but no one sees it. Maybe you're in a season of letting go when what used to work no longer works. Maybe you're in a season of breakthrough where everything feels new, fast, and a touch scary. Or maybe you're in a season of stillness where clarity is forming but hasn't fully surfaced yet. No season is better than another, they're just different. Each one has a purpose. Your duty isn't to rush through them. It's to honor them, to learn from them, and to stay rooted long enough for them to do their work in you. This doesn't mean you stop showing up. It means you stop expecting the same output from every chapter of your life. Stop criticizing yourself for not moving at the pace you did last year. Don't assume that slower means worse. Lead yourself with knowledge, maturity, and rhythm. And when you do, you'll develop strength. Not just physical or cerebral strength, but emotional and spiritual strength. You'll learn how to be with yourself at every stage. You'll learn how to keep going without pushing too hard. You'll learn how to be still without falling asleep to your goal. You will become someone who understands. Progress is not always loud, but it's always moving forward if you stay aligned. The fifth basic notion for obtaining great success is to establish emotional endurance. Because it's not the approach that breaks most people, it's the pressure. It's not the lack of opportunity, it's the inability to remain anchored while carrying weight. You can have the plan, the vision, and all the tools, but if you crumble every time life pushes back, success will always seem just out of grasp. Endurance isn't made in moments of ease. It's shaped in the tension between what you desire and what life throws at you, between what you expected and what actually happened. Most people want achievement without confronting resistance. They seek growth without weight, success without setbacks, momentum without struggle. But that doesn't exist. To grow, you'll be stretched. To lead, you'll be misunderstood. To pursue your goal, you'll endure tiredness, doubt, delays, and disappointment. There's no way around it. The only way is through. Emotional endurance is what helps you keep going forward without shutting down, without lashing out, and without allowing your lowest moment become your new standard. This doesn't imply becoming cold or neglecting your emotions. It implies no longer being dominated by how you feel. It involves stopping the practice of making decisions that protect your emotions at the price of your mission. It means directing yourself when your emotions try to lead you. It's simple to show up when you feel powerful, to talk clearly when everything is functioning, to lead with enthusiasm when there's no pushback. But true growth is defined by how you lead yourself through discomfort, through the unknown, through the murky middle where nothing feels certain. You train for this by practicing presence under pressure. You don't escape from it, numb it, or ignore it. You stay with it. You breathe through it. You let it teach you. You realize that you may be fatigued and still move forward. You can feel terrified and still make decisions. You can feel uncertainty and still walk with clarity. Every time you do this, every time you stand your ground instead of spiraling, you build strength, internal strength, the sort that compounds, the kind that doesn't rely on hype or external approval. The sort that says, I've been through worse, and I'm still here. The kind that says, even if it shakes me, it won't break me. This endurance comes out in the minor moments. When you don't snap back at someone who deserves it. When you keep mute instead of defending yourself foolishly. When you honor your commitments, even when you're fatigued. When you return after a rough day, it's not always immediately evident, but it's always valuable. It fosters trust because people know you're reliable, not because you're always in a wonderful mood, but because you are consistent. You don't allow pressure to steal your presence. You don't let fear define your choices. You don't disintegrate when life doesn't line with your desires. You act from principle, not terror. That's emotional resilience, and it's rare. But when you have it, you stop fearing what's ahead. You quit hesitating when things get tough. You recognize that the weight won't break you, it will shape you, and that shape prepares you to manage greater responsibility, greater impact, and a bigger purpose. The sixth fundamental concept for reaching great success is to root your life in service. As you attain more success, it can be easy to focus completely on yourself, your objectives, your desires, your fulfillment, your brand, your name. But the reality is that the most fulfilled individuals on earth, the ones who last, who lead with peace, who leave behind something meaningful. They don't build only for themselves. They construct for others. They lead from a place of service. It sounds simple, it sounds ideal, but it's not always easy. Service isn't always convenient. It doesn't always come with recognition or acclaim. Sometimes it costs you comfort, sometimes it costs you pride, and occasionally it costs you the opportunity to claim the credit. But that's the goal. When you serve truly from a place of humility, not as a ploy for recognition, you earn something deeper than applause. You get purpose. You cease needing to be the hero. You cease needing to be the loudest voice in the room. You cease needing to be the most important person in every interaction. something incredible happens. Your life begins to multiply. Your energy, your influence, your impact. You're not just adding value to yourself anymore, you're adding value to others. And when you live this way, your concept of success alters. It's no longer only about what you achieve, but about what you offer. It's not only about how far you go, but about who you bring with you. It's not just about what you build, but how people feel when they're with you when you build it. Service doesn't mean you have to be in a helping profession, nor does it imply relinquishing your goal. It means walking into every room with a question in your heart. What can you contribute? It means carrying your abilities in a way that raises others, not one that undermines them. It involves designing systems that benefit people, not just systems that expand. This idea isn't just about ethics, it's about sustainability. Those who serve with genuine intention tend to endure longer. Why? Because when your motivation derives from making a difference, you're more resilient. You don't give up as easy. You don't buckle when times get rough. You don't burn out quickly because you're not driven by ego. You're driven by the desire to serve others. And people matter. They always have, and they always will. Across every sector, every household, every leadership job, every calling. Your ability to see people, to honor them, to bring them up, and to serve them is what gives your work significance. It's what gives your life structure and your achievements its actual essence. So, make service a habit, not a marketing plan, not a one-time charity endeavor, but a way of living. You seek ways to serve even when no one asks. You restore dignity by your presence. You make place for others' voices even when the spotlight could be yours. You lead the way in charity. You lead the road in humility. You lead the way in making people feel appreciated, and in doing so, you earn something that can't be bought. A sense of purpose that lasts well beyond any finish line. You develop relationships that aren't reliant on transactions. You develop a legacy that's not judged by applause, but by the tales people share when you're not around. Stories about how you showed up, how you gave more than expected, how you changed someone's path, not by being flawless, but by being present. Now that we've set the framework, the question is, what will you do with it? The 6 principles you've heard aren't just concepts to admire, they're blueprints to live by. They're calls to build something deeper. Something that won't shatter when life gets rough. Something that won't leave you questioning your worth just because your numbers didn't match expectations. Something that outlasts acclaim, attention, and pressure. You've seen what happens when success is founded on superficial techniques, when ambition is detached from identity, and when progress is mistaken for purpose. You've witnessed the burnout, the confusion, the loss of peace, even amid high performance. Now, you have a choice to follow what's usual or to build something real. True success begins when you stop depending on others to define your worth, when you make peace with the idea that your value isn't up for debate, whether in this room, in the next season, or ever. True success deepens when your behaviors coincide with your authentic self, when your decisions reflect who you genuinely are, rather than who you're attempting to impress. They endure. When consistency is developed without the need for hype, when your momentum doesn't dissipate as inspiration ebbs, you start to see yourself clearly. You stop rushing through seasons, and you begin to comprehend what each chapter is trying to teach you rather than wanting to avoid it. You guide yourself through shifts without panic, adjusting, growing, changing, and building emotional resilience, not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. You cease viewing pressure as a sign of failure and instead see it as confirmation that you're progressing. Most importantly, you return to a mindset of service. You stop building for yourself alone and begin to build for others. You add value to the table without seeking applause for every contribution. You lead in a way that lifts others, leaving them better than you found them. You live in a way that multiplies not only your belongings, but the impact you have on others. These 6 principles may not always appear glamorous, and they may be hard to express, but they will guide you when the route forward is unclear. They'll keep you grounded when things get noisy and prevent you from exchanging peace for performance, purpose for popularity, and your soul for status. In a world continually pressuring you to chase more and accomplish it faster, these ideas will keep you steady. True success isn't about checking off every goal, but about being someone who lives with depth, leads with integrity, and contributes in lasting ways. You're not simply building a life, you're becoming one. You're not just setting goals, you're setting a tone. You're not just recording milestones, you're generating significance.